There have been scores of executive actions signed by President Biden. Have there been any you see significantly beneficial to America? And if you haven't been, that's okay. But I just wanted to know if you saw any that you thought were really, really beneficial. Thaddeus?
I'm not going to point to any one in particular because so many of these executive orders that he's signed that are good in my estimation. A lot of what he is doing is reversing executive orders of the previous administration that were harmful. And it's about the only way that he can do it, and it's the only way he can get a lot of stuff done quickly. I'm hoping that some of that is going to develop into real uh, lasting benefits, and I think that they are already working to craft one of the ones that's most pressing, I think, is that of immigration, because that's probably where the Trump administration's most ghastly crimes were committed. So, yeah, what he's doing now is beneficial to the country, and I hope that his executive orders are going to eventually bloom into real legislation so we can have lasting benefits from them.
Yeah, immigration is a big problem that everybody kept kicking that can down the road and left us with Trump. Dan, you ready to take this question on?
Yeah, because I don't have a lot to say on the matter. I know he signed a ton. I know that they have mostly been undoing the Trump executive orders. He has not broken into a whole lot of new ground. I do think they are beneficial because I think that Trump's were actively harmful. I also think that this is a very big lesson for the next authoritarian who will not be as dumb as Trump, that you need to make your orders harder to undo, and that means legislative wins. Trump did not have the ability to get a lot of stuff put through Congress, thankfully. So it's very easy for Joe Biden to come in and undo this. Barack Obama, who also governed by executive order for a lot of his term, he didn't create policy so much as he issued guidance. So he was deliberately not trying to create a law. He was trying to target and focus the laws that were already there. Trump was attempting to create law. Joe Biden is coming along and actively undoing that creation, which I am very, very okay with.
Anything significant in your mind, Merrick, or is it just generally like what these guys are saying?
The when he undid the trans military ban, that was very significant for trans and gender non-conforming communities. I've met trans servicemen and women, and a lot of them joined the military as an opportunity to get out of poverty. And so when he did that, he literally robbed people of a livelihood. So I thought that was important. I also thought that the he rolled back discrimination in terms of contractors hiring people in regard to LGBT people. So he repealed that ban on employment discrimination regarding LGBTQ people. So that has been very, very important. I would like to see him tackle police reform, and I believe that he is starting to do that. Is doing these executive orders the way things are supposed to be done? Probably not, but we got to see. You see what I'm saying? He knows he only has 2 years. He knows that he only has 2 years to shut up, put up or shut up. So I think he's making a great start.
How do you see the pandemic's future in these next 6 to 12 months, Merrick?
I think that all the summer prides are canceled. I I think that we might get back to some sense of normal by the fall. Um, the whole Russian roulette in all of this is, will people take the vaccine? So I'm hopeful people will take the vaccine, but I know in communities of color we got a lot of questions about this vaccine. So if we do get the majority of Americans by the fall immunized, then things will return to some way of normal.
Well, you say you have a lot of questions. Do you think that's reluctance to take it because of those questions?
I think people are reluctant because the medical establishment, particularly here in the United States, has brutalized and murdered Black people. And so people are like, is this going to harm me? What are the side effects? So I know that there are people who've had the second shot and felt really bad. And then there are people who've taken the second shot and nothing happened. So people are very concerned about those things. I even heard somebody on the train today say somebody took the COVID vaccine and they died. That's not why they're going to take it. You see what I'm saying? So I think there needs to be better messaging from trusted messengers to these communities.
Better messaging, Thaddeus, or do you see something else?
Well, better messaging and better organization, because the big story since the first of the year is the rollout of the vaccines. And from my comfy little Naugahyde chair here, what I'm seeing is that the vaccine is getting into the arms of the people who push hardest. Mm-hmm. Personally, I am a retiree. I'm old enough to be in a high risk category. I have one of the diseases that's in a high risk category. I have not had even the ghost of an opportunity to get a shot, although I'd very much like to get one. My other half has already gotten one because in part because he lives with someone who is in a high risk category. So you can see how crazy and topsy-turvy that is. Mm-hmm. We still need to do some organizing. I think that the messaging on that is going to be really, really important for, both for getting to the people who want it and for the people who are afraid of it. And perhaps don't need to be afraid of it. I'll give props to our governor. He's not doing everything right, but he isn't stopping trying. Mm-hmm. So, I've got high hopes that things are going to go well in the coming months. And I look for COVID to gradually sink into the sunset as time goes on. And one statistic that I have here in our home state is that day by day already I am seeing the numbers of new cases, hospitalizations, and deaths are slowly receding. Mm-hmm. And that is, as they are ramping up, more people are getting shots. And I think more people are getting used to the idea that we're going to be wearing those masks for a while, that it's having a good effect. Fewer people are getting sick, fewer people are dying. And that's what we're looking for. Got high hopes.
And you have a couple of parents that you have really been pushing to try to get on lists. And
I believe you're up to 5 now.
I don't know. She doesn't. I'm just trying to stay out of her way. She spends a lot of time on a computer, though. So what's your take on the future of the pandemic, 6 and 12 months down the road?
I think by the end of this year, COVID-19 is probably going to be a fact of life the way that seasonal flu or HIV are facts of life. And not to downplay the severity of HIV, but at this point in America, it is much more of an inconvenience than it is anything else. I think that we will get through this year and we will learn to live with COVID. I do think that there are going to be some long lasting changes. I really want to go to a party and I want to be in a room with like 15 other people drinking wine and standing like 2 feet from each other. And I'm not going to know how to behave when the time comes to do that.
So you see in 12 months or so, you'll be able to do that?
I think less than that, but I think that I'm in a, because of my employment, which I don't want to name on YouTube, I am in my state's 1C group. So before the general population, I will have access to the vaccine. I think that the delays now in getting access to the vaccine are twofold. For one, when the Trump administration said, be prepared for this in November, everybody said, we don't believe anything Donald Trump said. So we haven't planned for the whole rest of the year. Why should we start planning now? So we didn't. And then go Andrew Cuomo in New York and Tom Wolf in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
They went a little crazy. They did so good right up until the time came to actually start getting shots in arms. And then both of their attitudes were, we're going full on Hunger Games here, but we're going to fine you if you give somebody who shouldn't have it the wrong shot, because that's bad. And it's a disaster. And Pennsylvania is 44th in the state for vaccine distribution. And I'm embarrassed by that because we had 8 months to plan. The lack of leadership on the federal level was terrible. I do really think that we will need to get a strong central organization going. But right now, the people that we're trying to vaccinate are people who are over 65. No disrespect intended to those on this call who are over 65. Most people who are over that age are not super good with technology. So sitting at 3 a.m. trying to get registered on a website that you don't really know how to use and aren't even really sure it's the right thing, not going to be the best. So I think that there have been a lot of problems with it. I think there will continue to be problems with it. But Fauci said yesterday, I believe, that by April, there should be enough vaccine to go around. I don't know if he was including Johnson & Johnson or AstraZeneca in those totals. I'm hoping he was just talking about Pfizer and Moderna. I saw a headline today that Biden found an additional 200 million doses. I don't know what the estimated delivery is on those, but I know that what we need is more vaccine, and I know we need more outreach to people who would not ordinarily be inclined to take it. Like, people of color have been medically abused in this country. If I were a black man, I would be less inclined to take anything that the government told me I should take. Gay people were medically ignored through a plague. We lost an entire generation. So I am not in particular trusting of the government in that regard, because they ignored an active plague that only affected the undesirables in their minds, or at least Reagan and Bush did, and that will be their legacy to me. So I think there does need to be outreach, and there is some. There is, out of Pittsburgh, an LGBT-friendly doctor that I've been to see for some things, and I know some of the people who work in the office, and I got an email from them saying, if you are in 1A, we have doses. Come see us. I'm not in 1A, so I couldn't. And yes, I did think about sending you and mom there, but you had to be an established patient, and you are not. But
It's been tough. It's been tough.
But yeah, I mean, it is going to get better. We have better leadership in power now. I think they did not realize how big a mess they were inheriting,
Mhm.
but they inherited a mess. I have faith in Joe and Kamala. These are competent people who really want to do right by the people who put them in office.
And they've assembled a competent team too.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's amazing what happens when it's not your son-in-law and his college roommate trying to run the response to the world's greatest health crisis.
All right, last question here. It's a very long one, so please be patient with me. I'm going to put on my amateur prognosticator of history hat to let you all comment on my prediction. I see 4 political groupings, 2 in the Democratic Party, 2 in the Republican Party. In the Democratic Party, there are the progressives, who seem to be the only ones willing to point out what is wrong in America, such as racial injustice, economic injustice, healthcare and environmental injustice, and a lot of other injustices. Along with the ability to see these inequities, have come up with actual legislative proposals to address these issues head on. Perfect example of this is Biden's $1.9 trillion Rescue America plan. Next, we have the mealy-mouthed moderate Democrats whose main skill is to reach across the aisle and give the Republicans everything they demand in order to appear bipartisan and to avoid being labeled as socialists. They have no legislative ideas beyond keeping everything exactly the same. So those are the 2 groups in the Democratic Party. On the Republican side, we have the old-style traditional fiscal conservatives who care about deficit spending and the national debt only when the president is a Democrat, and believe that the only good legislation is the kind that makes money for the people who donate to their reelection campaigns. The 4th group, also Republican, are the batshit crazy QAnon believers in all of Trump's lies, who have not only drunk Trump's Kool-Aid, but have decided to stay down in the bottom of the vat to lick every bit of that disgusting Kool-Aid residue their tongues can absorb. This group of Trump-loving Republicans has the traditional Republicans so afraid of being primaried by the batshit crazies like Marjorie Taylor Greene that they had to vote in secret in order to keep Liz Cheney in their leadership. Of these 4 groups, there are 2 which will emerge dominant, in my opinion. The progressives are clearly taking control of the Democratic agenda. The QAnon Trumpists have the other Republicans so afraid of their own shadow that the most they can muster is a letter to Biden asking for a 2-hour meeting. This dynamic of 4 groups existing under 2 labels cannot go on much longer.
Mhm.
There has got to be a separation of some sort into 3 or 4 distinct parties, because the moderate Democrats are getting primaried by the progressives, and the traditional Republicans are either becoming Q or run the risk of being primaried by Q.
Mhm.
How do you see the future of the historically American 2-party system? Merrick, what do you think?
I think actually, if we looked at the systems today, there are actually 4 political parties. You've got the moderate Dems and you've got the progressives. AOC said herself that if this was any other country, she would be in a different party, right? Because of consensus and things of that nature. Okay, and then on the right, you have the moderate Republicans who you rightly said were scared of their own shadow, and you have the QAnon crazies. So those are four for me separate entities that are in this uneasy grouping, because I guess they don't think they have anywhere to go. But I do see a transformation of the parties. If anything, I predict that the Republicans will emerge from their ashes full on QAnon. They will go full on crazy. The progressives on the Dem side, they are going to bring young voters to the party. They're going to bring folks who have student debt to the party because their policies really are trying to look out for the working class. So that's what I see. I see the parties will eventually split, the Republican Party first and then maybe Democratic Party. I'm for four-party system. I think that we should have more than two political parties. I mean, if you went into a store and all you saw was cornflakes and Cheerios, you'd probably leave that store.
So you're saying that you think that they're going to have different names, like you
I
have
think
the Republican Party of Q, and then the traditional Republicans are going to be like two separate names, so they won't be primarying each other. They'll both be in the general election.
no, I think that the QAnon crazies will primary notable Republicans. And what I see
So where do
is,
they go then? Where do these other Republicans go
oh,
after that?
there's still going to be Republicans, but the QAnon crazies will probably be in Trump's Patriot Party because he's trying to start another party. They've begged him not to, but we already know how that is. If anything is going to give him more adulation, he'll do it. So I do think that that party will split in two because you have people in the Republican Party that still believe in reality. Okay. Then there's a whole swath that don't believe reality at all. They are so divorced from reality. And how do you
And
live in the same house by that? Like
you
that.
see them becoming the Patriot Party then?
Yeah.
Okay, okay. Dan, what do you think?
Um, I think that the tents have gotten too big. I do agree with you that there's too many competing ideologies under each roof. Because the Republicans, like Reagan, invited in the evangelicals and sold his soul there, and the Republicans have been collapsing under that weight ever since. The Democrats, on the other hand, it's incongruous that the author of the Green New Deal and Joe Manchin, I love coal power, are on the same side. It's not a thing that can sustain itself. I think what will happen first, the progressives will pull the Democrats further left because I look at myself and I look at Joe Biden and I see this is the evolution of a Democrat on particular issues.
Mhm.
I remember in 2016 when it was Bernie versus Hillary, my immediate thought was, it's not that I don't like Medicare for all, it's that I don't think he can make it work without destroying the economy that is working for a lot of these voters, so he's never going to get it. And it's not that I don't want a $15 minimum wage. I think we're not ready for that yet. We have to try something smaller to prove that it can work first, and then we can get there. So I saw all of Bernie's ideas as these will be feasible after 4 solid terms of Democratic leadership. So if you had 2 of Obama and 2 of Hillary Clinton, then all of Bernie's stuff would have come to pass if we had a 5th term of a Democratic president, whoever Hillary's heir was. That obviously did not happen. Now I look at this stuff and I say, okay, we desperately need all of these things now, and we just wasted 4 years, so we don't have time. So the economy's already in the shitter. Why don't we just do the Medicare for all and everything else right now? And I think a lot of people are there. And I know for a fact Joe Biden wasn't campaigning on a $15 an hour minimum wage, but he put it in his COVID relief bill where it probably doesn't belong, but I think he thinks that's going to be his big piece of bipartisan legislation. So he's trying for it. He's going after what he thinks he can get because we need it now. And I see I've been moved further to the left on the economic issues. The Republicans, well, I'm not I'm not sure how. I thought they were going to shatter between the Tea Party and everybody else, and they didn't. Democrats fall in love, Republicans fall in line. Eventually, they fell in line. I do have I have faint glimmer of hope when I look at the more purple states, the Pennsylvanias, the Michigans, as opposed to the deep red states, or even the deep blue ones. Like, not a fan of Bernie Sanders because I hate his personality, but I also don't think he could get elected as a senator in Pennsylvania. I don't think he could get elected as a senator in Michigan. At the same time, I don't think Ted Cruz or Josh Hawley could get elected senator in those states either. I think the two sides are too extreme, and it's harder in a purple state. Those places are going to produce the more moderate candidates, the Bob Caseys, the Pat Toomey's, the Connor Lambs. So we don't have to worry about Marjorie Taylor Greene moving to Pittsburgh and becoming your House rep. But you can't have AOC either. She won't win. If you put an extremist against a moderate in a purple state, the moderate will win.
Yeah.
That will keep the moderate wings of both parties in power until the states pick a side. And I am really not inclined for that to happen, because once each state has picked a side, we don't have any more purple states, then we will not be the United States anymore, and it will not take the gun nuts very long to figure that out. So I do think that this is not going to happen as quickly as possible. The Republicans have been keeping the two caucuses together. The Tea Party was full on crazy. They were running obvious lunatics. It's just they weren't necessarily winning. Now they're winning in deep red states or deep red congressional districts, because Georgia is now a purple state. But Marjorie Taylor Greene's district, the victory is determined during the Republican primary. A Democrat does not have a chance there. Just
in
like
that district.
Right. Just like AOC's district in New York. Her victory was determined in the Democratic primary. I don't think she even had an opponent in 2020 that she had to fight against. So that gives these people an opportunity to pull their party in whichever ideological direction they want to go. Obviously, I think AOC is a better human being who is looking out for the interests of everyone so much more than Marjorie Taylor Greene is when she's chasing down shooting survivors and telling them that their experiences weren't real. But I do think that the extreme ideological candidates come from safe districts for those ideologies to exist in. The people who are in the middle are not from those safe districts, and the people who want to pull the party too far in one direction or the other cannot win in those districts. So I do see the parties getting too top heavy, and I do think that they have to, more than every 4 years, establish a platform where they draw their lines in the sand. And if we want to switch as Democrats to clean energy 100%, Joe Manchin is probably not going to stay with us. And that's something that we have to accept. And I'm sure the Republicans have a similar line in the sand. I think they're crazy, so I don't understand what their line might be. For something I'll find reprehensible, I'm sure.
Thaddeus,
I
Dan.
think at the end of the day, it'll take a while.
Yeah, Dan seems to think that it has to be more regional than the way I described it. So what do you think?
Well, I've just been thinking in a very general term for the whole map. And what I have seen happening, partly through the Biden campaign, is the Democratic Party pulling together around Biden because he was, has the reputation of a moderate. And then the progressives have been pulling Biden toward the progressive side. I hope that this is going to be a good thing and it's going to happen because the last time the United States had a progressive push was under Lyndon Johnson, and I was just a little boy then. And we are badly, badly overdue because the rest of the world is passing America by. We're no longer the best place in the world to live. We're the 27th best place in the world to live, and we need some progressive action to get us up to where the mode of living for Americans is better than it is now. So I hope for that. As far as the GOP side, they are in such disarray right now. If it isn't Trump, it isn't Republican, and Trump is probably going to spend the rest of his life in and out of courtrooms and isn't going to have much time to be the queen bee of his hive. So I don't know where they're going. What I hope and pray for the GOP is that somewhere they will coalesce into a group of people who reimagine the role of the party as one of service rather than one of power. And that's about as far as I can get with it.
That's a hope, but I don't think that's much of a chance of happening. Hey, I want to thank everybody for being part of this. This has been great. Okay, I want to thank Thaddeus, Dan, and Merrick for joining us. Thank you all for tuning into the Curmudgeon Corner, and we'll see you next time.